Welcome back to the Dividend Diplomats YouTube channel. You got your boys here, Lanny and Bert, the Dividend Diplomats. Guys, is SCHD in trouble? In this video, we're going to cover 3 potential red flags that SCHD investors can no longer ignore.
Hit that subscribe button, guys. Give us a nice thumbs up. 3 red flags for SCHD. Bert's been buying those shares of this ETF every single week. Hell, I've joined the team, the SCHD team, buying shares every single day. And it's time to see what the 3 red flags are that Bert has put together here for us today.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Everyone loves SCHD in the community. It's a great fund. We're not saying SCHD is a bad fund, but for the cult loving and the cult following that is SCHD, the question is why? And are these red flags enough to maybe knock it off that top spot in every dividend investor's mind?
Oof. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is going to be some of the performance of SCHD year to date, 1 year, 5 year. We'll look at what happened with the Reconstitution, what really has transpired. Then we'll take a peek at where the growth has been in the market and where they fit in that span, guys. So to really get into the performance of SCHD, Bert thought it would be very fun to pit them against VYM. And man, oh man, you would have thought that maybe the tide turned for SCHD this year, but surprisingly, SCHD as of the end of June 18th is actually down 2.5% year to date, Bert.
Yeah, compared to VYM, that's up 2.11%.
What?
So they're lagging SCHD. I mean, they're lagging VYM. It gets even worse when you stretch it out a year, Lanny, because SCHD is only up 2.38%. VYM's only up 8%.
Oh my gosh. So either which way, both are up. Both are probably, trailing behind the S&P 500. But SCHD is now trailing VYM by 6% in 1 year. Now let's jump to the 5 year, guys. SCHD is up 51% in 5 years. Average rate of return, call it 10% a year. But this is where VYM, they flipped the script here in 2025 because VYM is actually up almost 62%. So beating SCHD by almost 11% on the return front, guys.
This is a trend, Lenny, that you've actually called out yourself, and you started noticing more and more. SCHD, we've talked about it for a year or so. SCHD had a really strong 1 and 2 year in that 5-year window. VYM had a stronger 3, 4, and 5. And the further you move along, the further the separation has, because the good days for SCHD that you experienced in 2020 are starting to fall off, and you're starting to see the separation between VYM where it starts to outpace it. So to me, that's a huge potential red flag that SCHD, although it has a slightly higher yield than VYM, is no longer in the same ballpark as VYM from a performance standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. And, the reason why everybody really loved SCHD is because it was almost like a too good to be true ETF. They would beat the S&P 500. They would have a higher dividend yield than VYM and a higher dividend growth rate than VYM. Those last 2 pieces are obviously true. The first piece of beating the S&P 500, no longer true. And then even falling slightly behind in the last 5 years for VYM. So very astonishing results here, guys. Mm-hmm. But time to get into the second red flag. Yeah. And we have to talk about their annual reconstitution that SCHD does because, Bert, they're pushing this ETF, the holdings, into 2 distinct industries, right?
That's right. You have energy, and then they move more into consumer staples, but their top sectors are energy, where they increased that allocation in March from 12% to 21%. Consumer staples up from 15% to 18% in March. And then the next largest sector is healthcare at 16%, even though that allocation went down slightly. So those big 3, the big 2 they pushed their chips into, and then this third, healthcare, are all lagging right now. Lanny, energy has not been able to find its way over the last 3 months. Consumer staples are beaten down by tariffs that were announced at the end of April and beginning of May. And healthcare, my goodness, if you want to talk about a sector that can't win right now, healthcare might be up there. What do you think about those sectors?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you look at information technology, it actually decreased by 0.6%. Utilities have done actually decent, I believe, here in 2025 with the defensive side from investors. They went down in that section as well. Banking, I think, has done actually very well, and they actually trimmed that position in half. So it seems like maybe they know better than we do. Maybe the next few years they see some strong growth post tariffs.
Yeah, but so where they zigged, the market zagged, and that's just been a really unfortunate piece for SCHD. You've seen some signs of life. You've seen a rebound here in energy at the end of June, but the question is, now it comes down to, do they pick the winners within the sector? But that's a different story for a different conversation.
Right. So the Reconstitution at the end of the day so far has underperformed the last couple of years.
And 3 months later, after the fact, is a good time to look back on it and say, well, they're going to do another Reconstitution again next year. So they're 25% of the way through this Reconstitution, and it has just been a very slow start for SCHD out of the gates.
Yeah. And then it comes down to, their exposure to where the growth is right now in the market. Obviously, tech and AI are still carrying the torch here. Think NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, Google. But then you insert Oracle, IBM, and other stocks that are really heavy into AI. The IT that they do hold, Bert, are what certain stocks?
Yeah, in their top 10, you have Cisco and you have Texas Instruments, which are great. Fantastic companies. Cisco crushed earnings. They're getting into the cybersecurity. You saw a pop with Cisco, but you don't know where it's going to cap. They're not into that AI play, like you said, with Oracle, who just had one of the best weeks that Oracle's had since 2021. You're not in even the IBM that's had the IBM consulting, which was legacy, and they pivoted quickly. Cisco and Texas Instruments are great. They're ultra conservative, though. And you also covered another point, Lanny. The financials. The financials are down, but the financials are the sector that are also benefiting from this as well. And the financials, you're seeing all the companies that are pivoting into crypto, for that matter. So you'll see like your Coinbase is taking off. You'll see a lot of financial firms that are making plays on crypto, and that goes against the grain for what SCHD typically does.
Visa, MasterCard, those that are partnering up with the big, crypto players. Obviously, Coinbase releasing their card. I think it's a Amex. So again, there's the financial and services industry that's blending in with the blockchain cryptocurrency industry.
Yeah, so those are our three big red flags, everybody. SCHD is underperforming VYM. The annual reconstitution has been off to a really slow start 3 months in. And where they are in the growing sectors, such as IT and financials, they ain't playing in those sectors. That's red flag number 3.
They ain't playing.
No. Is all hope lost for SCHD? Absolutely not. They had great dividend growth in Q1. They're a dividend fund. You're getting a high yield. But that said, there's still some room to go, and there are some red flags that SCHD investors can no longer ignore.
Guys, let us know what you think about SCHD. Is SCHD, though it's lagged the market, is now the time to buy this basket of stocks through the ETF? Will it propel over the next 5 years? Will that script flip for SCHD, which many argue is the best dividend growth ETF out there? Obviously, Bert's going to continue his weekly buys. I'm going to continue my daily smash buys here on the SoFi app. Again, links below in the description to get yourself some free stock, guys. Help us help you. That would be awesome. Guys, let us know in the comments, again, about what your thoughts are with SCHD.
Yeah, we'd love to hear about it. And if there are some red flags here that we didn't cover too, these are only 3 of them, let us know. And let us know, do you agree or disagree too? We want to hear from everyone. Every SCHD investor, every non-SCHD investor. Throw those comments in that section below.
Remember to like this video, guys. Hit that subscribe button. And Bert, we got one thing left to tell these jabronis. You're either with us or you're against us, Jack. And that was Bert the Hurt and Lanny from the Dividend Diplomats. Over and out.